Guys, today we're going to learn about multiplying fractions, and we're going to use an area model to do that. So let's dive right in. John's having his friends over for a pizza party. 1/4 of the pizza that John makes are pepperoni, and of those pizzas that are pepperoni, 1/3 have a wheat crust. So what fraction of the pizzas are pepperoni with a wheat crust? Well, let's just figure out what fraction are pepperoni. It says 1/4 or 1 out of 4. So to model that, I'm going to shade in here 1 out of the 4 columns, right? 1 out of 2 and 3 and 4. So that represents our pepperoni pizzas. Now, they don't all have a wheat crust, though. 1/3 of them have a wheat crust. So what would that look like? 1/3 of them. Well, 1/3 means 1 out of 3. So 1, 2, 3. It should be this 1 out of 3. Let's see if that makes sense. When I go to shade in 1/3, I'm going to shade in 1 out of the 3 rows going across, right? 1, 2, 3. And the part that overlaps is the part that's pepperoni. Remember, they were in the yellow section and have a wheat crust. They were in the blue section. So the part that's in both is 1 out of how many? Well, 1's going to be our numerator. How many pizzas do we have altogether? Well, to figure that out, we're just going to add up all the little pieces that we see. 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So 1/12 of the pizzas are pepperoni with a wheat crust. Let's move on to Megan. Megan is taking a math test. Lucky Megan, aren't you jealous of her? 1/2 of the test questions are multiple choice. So since we're modeling, I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to shade in 1/2. I'll shade in the left half. Of these multiple choice questions, though, 2 out of 4, 2/4, are about multiplication. So again, think about 2 out of 4. Here's 1, here's 2 out of 3, 4. I may as well shade 2/4 of that. There are 2 rows now out of 3, 4 rows altogether. And again, the overlapping part is our answer. So what fraction of the test questions were multiple choice about multiplication? Well, 2 parts out of how many? Count the total number of pieces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 2/8 would be our fraction that we're looking for. Again, it's because they're in both categories. They're multiple choice, which is in the yellow section, and they're about multiplication, which is in the blue section, and that makes 2 out of 8 altogether. We won't worry about simplifying during this particular video. Mr. O'Rourke's class is on the way to the cafeteria for lunch. I bet you wish you were on the way. 2/3 of his class is buying lunch. 2/3. So I'm going to shade in 2 out of the 3 columns. Why? Because 2 pieces out of 3 is the fractions 2/3. Of those students buying lunch, though, they're not all ordering chicken tenders. 3/5 of them are. 3/5 out of these. So if I shade in 3/5, the part I'm looking for is the part that overlaps, right? Here are 3, right? 1, 2, 3 out of 4, 5 rows. 3 out of 5 rows. So what would be our fraction that's buying lunch and they're also buying chicken tenders? Well, the yellow section bought lunch. The blue section bought chicken tenders. So the part that's in both categories is what we're looking for. What's our numerator? How many pieces are overlapping? 6 pieces are overlapping. So that's our numerator. Our denominator shows our total number of pieces. And if you count how many total pieces are in our fraction model, well, 5 up and down, 3 across, that makes 15. So 6/15 of the class is buying chicken tenders for lunch today. Katie, she doesn't get chicken tenders. She has vegetable soup. And she says 2/5 of the vegetables, 2 out of 5, are mushrooms. So here is 2/5. I'm coloring 2 columns out of 5. Those are mushrooms. Now, 1/6 out of those mushrooms are button mushrooms. I've never had a button mushroom, but I guess they're good if she's putting them in the soup. Here is 1 part out of 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 parts. We could shade the whole part in, but the part we're looking for is the part that overlaps, because yellow is mushrooms, the blue section is button mushrooms. So this 1 part out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 parts overlaps. I see 2 sections in there out of how many total sections? 2 is our numerator out of how many total? Well, it's 6 up and down, and it's 5 across, and that gives us a total of 30. 2/30 of the vegetables are button mushrooms. I think I'd still take the chicken tenders. 2 more to go here. Annie's aquarium sells different types of fish. 3 out of 4, or 3/4 of the fish, are freshwater fish. So what should I shade to represent 3/4? How many columns should I shade in? Well, it should be 3 out of the 4 columns. So up and down, there's 1, 2, 3 out of 4. Out of those, though, they're not all angelfish. 1/3 of them are. So if I shade in 1/3, you can see here our overlapping section. Here's 1 row out of 2, 3 rows of fish. So what's our fraction going to be? Again, the answer is our overlapping part. What's our fraction going to be here? I have 3 pieces out of a total of 15 pieces. That gives me, 12 pieces. 3 out of 12. See, it just shows you even teachers make mistakes too, right? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 3 out of 12. And our last one. 3/7 of the students at Parker Elementary play a musical instrument. Out of those students, though, only 1/5 play a violin. We want to know what fraction plays an instrument and also is playing violin. So I will shade in 3 out of 7. Why did I do that? Because 3/7 means 3 parts out of 7. That's 3 columns, 1, 2, 3 out of 7 columns. What is my shading across going to look like? 1/5 play violin. How much should I shade? How many rows? 1 row out of 2, 3, 4, 5. 1 out of 5. So how do I find my answer? What part of this is my answer? Well, the overlapping part's my answer, just like it has been every single time, because yellow represented students playing a musical instrument, but only 1 part out of 2, 3, 4, 5 parts. Only 1 out of 5 play violin. So what is my answer for this one? What fraction play an instrument that's also a violin? Well, you can see the overlapping part shows 3 out of how much? 3 out of 35. If you count, there are 35. So 3/35 play a violin. So that's how we use area models to help us with fraction multiplication.